It's the 23rd episode of the WWJ Industry Connected Podcast, a monthly podcast devoted to the groundwater industry produced by the National Groundwater Association. I'm your host, Mike Price, and today we're joined by Noah Rolfe of Kennebec Well Drilling in Farmingdale, Maine. We discussed the dual rotary conversion of the company's 1999 REICHdrill T-650 WII over the summer, details of the DR setup, and more. And we welcome to the podcast Noah Rolfe of Kennebec Well Drilling in Farmingdale, Maine. Welcome to the podcast, Noah. Thanks.
Happy to be here.
Thanks, man. We're talking in early November on a Friday after a long day of work, so much appreciated for you coming on.
Yeah.
Well, we want to get the lowdown on your lower drive conversion that you had done, you and your dad, earlier this summer. Want to know all that went into it and the timeline and how it's been operating for you so far.
It's been going good. The timeline, of course, everything goes great when you plan it in your mind and you lay everything out. Everything went very smooth with the install. It just took a little bit longer than expected. I think we were down for a total of 10 weeks, which we were hoping for a little over a month. But with anything custom like that, they sell it in a kit kind of made for your rig, but there's always changes, always things you want to do. And we went one step beyond with mounting the cyclone on the rig. We changed the control box. We made quite a few changes that weren't really expected, but it's one of those things that while you're down, it's always the time to do it. If you save it for a later date, it'll never happen. So we figured you might as well take advantage of it sitting at a machine shop to have everything done just how you want it.
Yeah, that makes sense. The lower drive is sold by REICHdrill, and they can install it, or they can have the client install it, or it can be a shared responsibility. So you did it at a machine shop down the road?
Yeah, we got it. We made a trip up to Canada. Actually, it was when the tariffs were first getting put, into place, and we ran up to get it, thinking that we don't want to have to pay an extra tens of thousands of dollars if we don't have to. We're trying to get it back to Maine.
Yeah.
Of course, you can't just leave Canada with $150,000 in a box and not pay taxes anywhere and get away with it. So they ended up shipping it down. That all got pushed down a month, and it all worked out just fine. But no, it landed at our shop in a box, and I want to say January thereabouts, and sat there until springtime came around.
So the lower drive is on a 1999 REICHdrill 650 WII?
Yeah, it is. It's a rig we bought, I guess, 6 years ago now, and it's been real good to us, and it was worth putting the money into on that rig.
So how often are you using the lower drive on sites?
It really depends up here. I mean, we work in a pretty large area. We go all around, and sometimes we'll be setting, I think just last week we set 140 feet of casing with it. Yesterday we were setting 40 feet of pipe. Ledge was real close, drop pipe in, it bounces off the bottom. Of course, not everywhere is like that. The nice thing with the system is that if you get caught in a bad spot, somewhere that, okay, I think I can just air down, drop pipe in, and it turns out that no, it's wet sand or it's gravel or anything else, we have everything right there with us to swap over and kind of get set up to use the lower drive. It's not like we used to be with other systems where it was, let's start fresh in the morning, we'll get the trailer all loaded up with plain end pipe. It's everything is there. So even if you get into a tough spot, you're all ready to go, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's always with us. Probably we're using it as intended 1 out of every 10 jobs, which doesn't make it sound worth it, but it seems like every year prior we've had one job that we'd be sitting on for a week or 2 weeks, just fighting, trying to get casing in the ground. And we haven't had that with this system since. We've had no issues with plugging up, which we ran into in the past, where one time we had to cut every piece of casing. I think we were down 140 feet, cut all the welds every 20 feet, bring it all out and start fresh. Mm-hmm. With this system, we haven't had that issue because you're not locked into the casing with the hammer at any point. They work independently, the two of them together.
Yeah. So you alluded to the hammer you're running, and I'd like to know, the setup. You mentioned the cyclone that you had installed, because each DR setup is different. So, uh, what kind of hammer bit on the down the hole hammer are you running?
We are running, I believe, right now is a CRI, just a 6-inch hammer, Epiroc bits for the most part, and just a normal air hammer. Lots of times, I guess, up in Canada, they're running roller bits when they're doing gravel wells, stuff like that. We haven't tried it yet. We've got a brand new one sitting in the pile, waiting for its chance to get used. We just haven't gotten to that point yet. We figured, we'll wait till we're not so rushed that we can try something different without, you know, needing to learn something new.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Cyclone is working out well for you?
Yeah, the Cyclone works real great. It's mounted right to the rig on an arm so that we get to every job it's with us. We swing it out, and sometimes, it gets in the way from time to time, like anything else. But we've always got the option to just take it right off the rig too. If we were going to be in an area where we know we won't need it for 10 or 15 wells, we can just pop it off at the shop and leave it there, and it won't be in our way. But it's nice to have the option. But no, the Cyclone works great. It's nice. Even we had a real tight job in town the other day, and we were able to set up erosion control right around the Cyclone.
Nice.
We set, I think 120 feet of casing, drilled well, and everything dropped right in that erosion control. So it's nice for keeping a pretty tidy site.
Mm-hmm. And the casing jaws and running those or operating with those, how's that going for you?
That's great. So the way it's set up, like I said, probably 9 out of 10 wells, we're just airing down, putting pipe in like you normally would. But what this gives us the opportunity to do, it used to be when we'd air down, if you tried to put pipe in and it kind of got stuck somewhere, you'd put the hammer on top, you'd put the pounder in, and you would drive pipe down through. Now all we have to do, we can swap over 3 jaws to our 6-inch jaws for 6-inch casing, and we can just grab that pipe with a drive and we can spin it down in. We use one of the dual rotary shoes with the buttons on it on every job, just so that we don't risk getting into a tough spot. We're always ready.
Yeah.
And if it kind of goes awry.
Okay. That was going to be my next question. What kind of casing shoe, how many buttons and all that?
It depends. So we've got the option. We've been buying from Jeff Cummins. He calls them the ballistic shoes. They've got a different style carbide. It's not a real round button like a drill bit is. They almost come to a point. And I guess it's the same material, just a different shape. And we use 8 button, 14 button, and 20 button. How it works, the fewer the buttons, the sharper it cuts, the faster it wears out. So if we know ledge is close, I always weld on an 8 button, just because it's a cheaper shoe. More buttons, the more it costs. And if you know, or if you think you're going to have to grind down through some boulders or into ledge a bit, I'll always weld a 20 button on there. 14 if you don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
But so those are kind of the 3 different ones we use.
Yeah. But the down the hole hammer bit is doing the predominant work as it should be.
Right. It's doing most of it. We'll run down out of the shoe a little bit with the normal hammer just to give, because of course you're not driving on the casing. All you're doing is just spinning, churning, trying to cut some of that rock, and it needs a place to kind of fall into the hole for it to keep drilling. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it goes. You mess around trying to different things, but it just seems to be you go back to drill down below it a little bit, cut it down, drill down below, cut it. Nothing, once you get to ledge, nothing's fast. It's not a system made to drill into ledge, at least where we are. Our rock is very hard. But everything up to it works great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to hear about your formation. You're talking about the ledge, and so what kind of rock are you predominantly drilling through?
We run into a lot of granite. I mean, it seems like for the most part, all of our rock is very solid. Of course, we have our soft spots. We have our sandstone. We have what I refer to as graphite. It's a very, very black, very shiny, almost rock that drills fast. But for the most part, we are very stout rock. I mean, our drilling rate, 100 feet an hour, for the most part. A little bit slower from time to time, but we're pretty uniform.
Uh-huh. And the aquifer formation identification, benefits with DR and seeing it cuttings out of the cyclone. How's that been for you?
It's been very good for gravel wells. We've done
Mhm.
a small handful of gravel wells. We're not in an area that has a lot of gravel or a lot of wet gravel, but we've done, I think, 3 or 4 actual gravel wells with it. 2 of which Nordic Drill actually came up for one of their, they come up for a few days when you buy a drive, just to help you figure out anything you might not know, let you ask questions or give suggestions. But we did, one was, I want to say it was right around 70 feet that had 30 gallons a minute. The other one, I think, ended up being 98 feet with 60 or 70 gallons a minute. And it works great for that because there's nothing that really slows you down. The thing with the drive too is doing a gravel well, you can spin right down and you can play with it a little bit. If you go too far, you can always grab right onto that casing and pull it right back up and get to where the water was if you do end up sealing it off. The other thing, which we haven't done with the system yet, is setting screens. It simplifies it a lot because you can run your drill hammer down inside or run the rod down inside, hold the screen in place while you extract the casing. And there's a lot less guesswork to it, like we've done in the past, which we got into a position last year where we were doing a 200-foot gravel well. So we had 200 feet of casing, set a screen down in the bottom, set our string of drill rods on it, used our up hammer to bring the casing up, and it brought the screen and the stem of rods with it too. It was just one of those times where it didn't quite work out as you planned. Whereas with the drive, you can really feel what's going on and know what's happening before it happens.
Yeah. What are the percentage of screen versus open bedrock for you?
We've done, I believe, 1 screen well since we started. We don't do a lot of them, and it was for a farm in an area where you knew there was a lot of water. There was a hydrologist on site that was kind of picking everything out. But we've got screens setting on the shelf for when the time comes that we've got a good spot to use a screen. We've got nothing against it. It's just very rarely do we run into those spots where there's a lot of water and gravel.
Yeah. Okay. Um, and the learning curve on it. Did you have any experience watching DR prior to the conversion?
We 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 went up to, I think, 2 jobs with Chad. One, Chad Grignan from Pine State, who of course I think was first in the state to have a lower drive.
Yeah.
We went to one, my father and I, where he was setting casings and kind of got to watch him do that. It worked out very well, especially where he wasn't going down setting casing in ledge to drill. He just had to set a certain amount of pipe. So that was very neat to watch. The other one was he did the spring demo in Maine, I think last year it was. And there were quite a few people there watching. He was doing a gravel well for a campground.
Okay.
And those were kind of the 2 instances we really got to watch. Beyond that, it was just a lot on the, Water Well Guys Facebook group and what you can find on YouTube for the most part.
You bet. And so the prompting to look into having your rig converted to have the DR capability, what can you share the timeline and what went into all that thinking?
Yeah, it was one job last fall, that one of those jobs we were stuck on for a complete week, if not 2. It's just setting casing. Of course, we set pipe, we went 80 more feet and hit all kinds of water. But we were in heaving sands, and we'd get down, we'd go to add our next piece of casing to weld it on and add our drill stem. And as soon as we go to turn the air back on, the sand came right up inside, plugged the hammer, you're stuck, you're building air pressure. Once it finally releases, if it releases, you're blowing sand to the top of the tower everywhere around you. And that was actually the day that my father made the phone call to Nordic Drill and said, put me on the list. We'll order one of those 8-inch lower drives.
8-inch. Yeah. Okay. That was another question I needed to ask you, the size and okay, cool. Yeah.
So we ended up going with the 8-inch because it's a much smaller package. It fits inside of our tower instead of sitting out or needing to cut a lot of the bottom of the tower. Our tower, actually, we had to do very little trimming to. to fit that right inside of it, which is a big selling point of the 8-inch. The other thing is, if for whatever reason we wanted to take that lower drive off, if it was to sell the rig, if something seized up and you couldn't get parts, I think we could take a full day. We could have that right off the rig, have the old table back on, and nothing was permanently changed. A little bit of trimming here and there to make it fit, but nothing that the blind eye would see.
Yeah. And the capacity of the lower drive with the pull down and pull back, what do you know?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but more than I'd ever hope to need. Nothing that I feel like would limit us where we are. I think the limitation would be more with the shoe than the pull back or push down, which I guess would be the weight of the rig in that case that the drive has.
Yeah. And, you said, you've seen some demos. So you're familiar with the drill stem turning right, the casing turning left, and just getting used to everything turning and getting used to the controls. So the learning curve has been pretty good.
Yeah, it's been good for the most part. I get to watch, but it added 3 controls to the rig, which of course are a lot of controls when you're actually running the rig and watching everything going on. But it's a very simple configuration because you've got spinning left and right, which is one control. You've got the drive going up and down, which is another. And then the drive itself squeezing with the jaws, which is the third. Beyond that, you just have a float switch to let it float while you're drilling. But really, it's not adding a whole lot. And that's another thing that added some time to our install, is we ended up changing completely the configuration of the controls. They send a box that's made to be mounted, and we took the control panel at the machine shop. They built basically a whole new setup to get it above the control panel, make it look kind of built in, kind of take the shape of the rig. We've got it all marked on the tower with a paint pen, just kind of where you land in the casing, just to know, okay, I'm 6 inches out, or I'm a foot out, or I'm 6 inches up in, because it does matter, especially certain jobs we end up using, instead of just a standard down the whole hammer, which I should have mentioned before, as an under reamer, so that we go down with a 6-inch hammer inside, and when we hit the bottom of the hole, it goes out into an 8-inch bit, so that we can drill in front of that casing. And if you get somewhere that you're going to be drilling 10 or 15 or 20 or more feet in ledge, it's really something you want to swap over to, so you can drill plenty fast right down through that ledge and advance the casing behind it. More than anything, rather than fuel consumption, it uses a little more fuel because you've got extra pumps on the rig, which is extra drag, even if you're not using it. But more than anything, it's not a system that you put on and it's, wow, we set pipe fast now. But it's a system that we haven't run into one of those issues where you're sitting on the job site for a week or 2 weeks trying to get pipe in, which we've had. It seems like every year you have one of those jobs that you're 1 or 2 weeks, feels like it'll never end on the job site. And we haven't had that with this. It's kind of, slow and steady, but you never stop. It's a very calm system. It's not like times where you blow in pipe and it's okay, nothing's going good. Blowing clay everywhere, the hole's getting bigger. This is kind of, you just stand and you watch, and it goes smooth. It's not, like I said, fast, especially not in ledge, but there's no excitement with it, I should say, in a good way. It's not. A lot of times if we show up on a job site and the ledge sticking out of the ground and it's orange, there's iron in it, it looks nasty. A lot of times we'll go ahead and we'll set extra casing in a deal like that, just to hope to get down beyond that into something cleaner looking. Actually, a couple of years ago now, Maine requires 20 feet of casing. So if you show up, the ledge is sticking out of the ground, you have to set 20 feet of casing no matter what. We've started setting 40 feet of casing just because we've had a lot better luck. So many times, I bet it seems like every year you'd have 10 jobs where you'd put in 20 feet of casing, you'd start drilling below it, and you'd get a rotten spot or just orange spot with all sorts of water in it. You'd have to pull casing out, go back down in with your 8-inch, make a mess, get 40 feet ready, put it in. So we've just started setting 40 feet as a standard. I always figure it on the estimate, even if ledge is sticking out of the ground, and it seems to give the customer a better product, if nothing else. It's not always necessary, but lots of times right around 30 feet, you'll hit a real soft spot, maybe with a little bit of water in it, which you don't want, whether it's drought or groundwater intrusion, anything else. So it's just nice to get rid of that and have the peace of mind of doing really all you could do,
right.
Really knowing.
Right. Well, as a third generation driller who serves on Maine's Groundwater Association board, how has been things in your neck of the woods on the legislative front? I know we spoke in December of 22, and you were just in the midst of getting going with your dad there, I think.
Yeah, that was year 3, I guess. Now we're on year 6, and it's been good. It's been busy every year. 2023, I took over the company phone and the estimates and the billing and all that. So I got that pushed to my plate, but it's been good. There's plenty of work to go around still. And there, no real competition, it seems, in a good way. Everybody gets along, and you'll get calls from other drillers about other jobs.
Yep. And you're getting along with your dad, like you were saying, every morning you're getting the coffee and talking, and
almost every morning we're meeting at Dunkin' Donuts and headed out to drill, and it's all the plans are made the night before, and very smooth every day.
Good deal.
Yeah.
And you guys have a Facebook page, and you're busy enough. It doesn't seem like you need anything more than word of mouth and
no, really. And my father and I were actually talking about it the other day, is when we're so busy that I've gotten lazy with the Facebook page. The spring of this year, while the rig was at the shop getting the drive put on, I was posting on Facebook here and there old pictures, just because I wasn't busy day to day. I kind of had time to get back on the Facebook and post some pictures. And it's just recently your day to day planning the next day, the next week, that there's not time to try to sell any wells on Facebook. But beyond that, we ended up actually buying a second machine, I guess a month and a half or so ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. Figured it would make sense to have one with the drive all set up and then have another one without the drive, just kind of for the easy work, and it'll be helpful, even though we're not going to run both rigs at the same time, having a backup. If today the rig flopped over on the job site, it's a hard piece of machinery to replace. And even if you found one, you're going to pay too much for it, or you're going to buy something you really don't want because you need it. This one ended up actually popping up on Facebook Marketplace down on Texas. And we went down, got it a month and a half or so ago.
Okay.
And it's going to be a nice addition to what we have.
Yeah. How's the customer service been in working with Simon and Nordic Drill on it?
It's been good, and even better. We haven't really needed any customer service after we've gotten it on the rig. We haven't had any issues beyond a float switch when we first got it put on, and that was probably us, hooking up something backwards and zapping it. But beyond that, we haven't had any parts that need to be replaced, any issues that we had questions on. It's really been smooth sailing with the drive since we put it on.
Well, thank you for your time, Noah, today, and talking about the lower drive conversion and geeking out on the details of things, and sharing all the info with us. So all the best with the rest of your drilling this year and into 2026.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for watching and listening to the WWJ Industry Connected Podcast. We'll be back next month with a brand new episode, so be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the major platforms, so it will be easy to find us. And visit waterwelljournal.com for the latest expert columns, feature articles, videos, and news covering the groundwater industry. So one more time for Noah and I, thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.